Sarah tightened her grip on the worn leather straps of her backpack and adjusted her cap, shielding her eyes from the late afternoon sun. The forest trail was steeper than she had anticipated, the promise of a secluded waterfall, the only thing motivating her aching legs onward. A flash of something metallic caught her eye, half hidden amongst the ferns. She crouched down, brushing aside brittle leaves. A faded soda can, left behind by some careless hiker. Annoyance sparked within her, quickly followed by a pang of guilt. Sarah was more meticulous than most about leaving no trace. Her pack held not only the usual water and snacks, but also a small trash bag for any litter she might find. It was a habit ingrained from childhood, camping trips with her dad, his gentle reminders to leave a place better than they'd found it. A soft breeze rustled the canopy above, carrying a chill that seeped through her thin jacket. Fall was creeping into these mountains, a subtle shift in the air, the first hints of gold amongst the leaves. Sarah smiled to herself. The city, with its crowds and noise, seemed a world away. It was moments like this she craved the solitude, the symphony of birdsong, the simple act of putting one foot in front of the other. Up ahead, the trail curved sharply around a moss-covered boulder. The waterfall had to be close now. Her heartbeat quickened in anticipation, a tiny echo of the childlike wonder she still felt when venturing into nature's hidden places. She rounded the bend, eager for the first glimpse of her destination, and froze. The sunlight filtering through the trees, once dappled and inviting, seemed thinner, colder. Sarah shivered, a tremor that had nothing to do with the autumn chill. The boulder cast an unnaturally long shadow, a misshapen silhouette that gnawed at the edge of the trail. It was the silence that finally broke through her confusion. The birdsong was gone. Not a gentle fading into quiet, but an abrupt cutoff, like someone slamming a door on a vibrant conversation. Even the rustling of leaves had stilled. The forest held its breath. A prickle of unease snaked down her spine. This wasn't merely silence, it was expectancy. A heavy, oppressive silence, as though something unseen held the entire clearing in its grip. Sarah took a hesitant step forward, straining her senses. There was no obvious movement, no snapping twig to explain the unnatural hush. Her eyes darted between the shadows, seeking the source of her unease. Then she saw it. Not a creature at first, but a flicker of darkness at the edge of her vision. Too fluid to be a mere trick of light, it moved with disturbing grace around a fallen log. A sense of wrongness clung to it, a stark contrast against the natural browns and greens of the forest floor. For a heartbeat, Sarah's mind refused to process what she saw. It couldn't be real. It was too far outside the realm of misplaced trash and sudden changes in weather. Then the darkness shifted again, and a single burning crimson eye gleamed back at her from the undergrowth. Terror exploded in Sarah's chest, a white-hot surge that chased away the remnants of disbelief. The primal scream that ripped from her throat died in the suffocating silence of the woods. Time seemed to stretch and distort. The crimson eye blinked once, and then a blur of obsidian claws and skeletal limbs erupted from the shadows. Adrenaline flooded Sarah's system, momentarily overriding the terror. She spun, the backpack a cumbersome weight against her back, and ran. The sound of her pounding heart was a deafening drumbeat in her ears, drowned out only by the unnatural rasping breaths that seemed to emanate from all around her. The forest floor blurred beneath her feet, roots and rocks turning into treacherous obstacles. She didn't dare look back, but the ragged gasps for air coming closer fueled her desperate flight. Her lungs burned, legs screaming in protest, yet still she couldn't outrun the chilling scrape of claws on bark, the relentless pursuit. A fallen log loomed ahead, a tangled mess of branches and decaying wood. In a desperate bid for escape, Sarah scrambled over it, landing hard on the other side. A glance back sent a fresh wave of terror crashing down. It was there, a monstrous silhouette framed by the dying light, its crimson eye burning with a malevolent hunger. There was nowhere to hide. But there was perhaps a chance, however slim, to slow the creature down. In a split-second decision born of desperation, Sarah tore her backpack from her shoulders and hurled it back towards the charging creature. For a heartbeat, a flicker of surprise crossed the monstrous face. An ordinary animal might have been momentarily distracted by the movement, by the unexpected offering. Naraka was not an ordinary animal. Its stride faltered slightly, bony claws reaching out, snagging the straps of the pack. Sarah didn't wait to see if her gamble had bought her a few extra feet of distance. She surged forward, driven by the last embers of fight rather than any hope of survival. She aimed a wild kick towards the monstrous figure, her hiking boots slamming into bone with a sickening crack. An inhuman screech echoed through the trees, a sound of mingled pain and rage that clawed at sanity. She aimed a wild kick towards the monstrous figure, her hiking boots slamming into bone with a sickening crack. An inhuman screech echoed through the trees, a sound of mingled pain and rage that clawed at sanity. The creature recoiled. Sarah stumbled back, grabbing at a thin tree trunk for support. A moment of reprieve, but only a moment. Naraka moved with terrifying speed, skeletal hands tipped with obsidian shards outstretched. It snagged the fabric of her jacket, a grotesque parody of a playful tag. Yet, with a sickening twist, Sarah found herself being yanked off her feet, her screams swallowed by the relentless force pulling her towards the creature. Clawed fingers dug into her flesh, a blinding flash of pain that momentarily eclipsed the terror. Her desperate scrabbling at gnarled branches was futile. She was jerked through the air like a ragdoll, the forest swirling in a dizzying blur. Then, with bone-jarring abruptness, Sarah slammed against the unforgiving trunk of a towering oak. The creature loomed over her, its grin a skeletal rictus, each jagged tooth dripping with her blood. Her vision blurred, but she saw its eyes. No animalistic hunger there, but a terrible intelligence, a cruel delight in the suffering it inflicted. Raising one skeletal hand, the creature tilted its head, a monstrous caricature of curiosity. With a swift, merciless motion, it plunged its claws into her chest. No words can truly describe the agony that followed. It was a searing, consuming pain radiating outwards, tearing through flesh and sinew. Her final, choked scream was cut short, replaced by a gurgling sound as her own blood washed over her tongue. Her desperate struggles ceased. In those last fading moments, the forest spun into an abstract kaleidoscope of greens and browns. Her ears filled with a rush of unnatural wind, punctuated by a final, horrifying rasp of satisfaction from the creature that ended her life. The forest was utterly silent. Not even the chirp of a startled bird disturbed the heavy air. The only sound was the soft, irregular drip, drip, drip of blood from the gnarled branches of the oak tree. Sunlight lanced through the canopy, dappling the forest floor with patches of gold. Yet, the light brought little warmth. A chilling mist began to creep in from the forest's edge, clinging to fallen leaves and coiling around the jagged scars on the tree trunk. On the ground, amongst the scattered remnants of a once meticulously organized backpack, lay a single object the creature had overlooked, a faded photograph. The image was creased, stained with blood now, yet still visible. It showed a smiling woman standing on a different mountain trail, the city skyline blurred far in the distance. A memento of another life, brutally cut short. Hidden in the lengthening shadows, something stirred. No recognizable shape, merely a wisp of darkness that seemed to pulse in time with the unnatural heartbeat of the forest. A faint rustling, the whisper of a dry sigh, and then nothing. Only the relentless drip, drip, drip of blood and the lingering stench of something monstrous. The wisps of mist continued to swirl, clinging not merely to the ground but to the tree itself. They seemed drawn to the faint stains of blood, almost taking on a reddish hue in the fading light. A single crow perched on a branch, its head cocked at an unnatural angle. It stared at the blood-soaked spot of earth with unsettling intensity, as if discerning a gruesome story the human eye could not. Would this become a place of investigation, the beginning of a terrible mystery? Or would the forest swallow the evidence, the hiker a name added to the long list of those who had simply vanished?